Back from break here, Jackson and David ready to get going. This is a first time experience here in this tournament for David Brown as they exchange the handshake. And yeah, this is definitely so in Scrabble, Matt, we have something called classes, which is determined by your rating going into the tournament. David Brown is not only not in class A with the top dogs like Jackson, he's not even in class B. He's a class C player based on ranking, and yet he is in fifth place going into this game.
Yeah, I think part of the reason we're seeing David Brown have the success he's had is what you teased before the break. He is underrated. I've seen him play some crazy words before. I've seen him play some very technically sound Scrabble. His rating, oh my God, ooh, woo, howl, and he sets it up immediately. Great. His rating is definitely not accurate, but still impressive for any Class C player to be up with the Class A dogs.
Yeah, for sure. I'd agree with that. I feel like I've played him a couple times and he's always impressed me in those instances. I just want to rectify what I just said. His rating actually, sorry, his ranking in the standings coming into this game, actually not fifth, it's third. He's in third place behind Rafi Stern and Jackson Smylie. So an absolutely incredible performance by the 36th seed to be hanging right up there with the top dogs. Let's see what he can do with this very no player, no matter what their ranking or rating, is going to do very well with this rack.
No, and it's going to be, I think, the tail of the game. You look at Jackson, he's got an easy baby bingo on his rack, and David has Drek over here. I can't stomach the idea of playing through this rack, and yet HOWL holding Uwu is 25. I don't know. That the play actually sims on top, but exchanging feels so fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quibbling at all with the decision to exchange, and looks like David with a little bit of a smirk there, as after he exchanges, Jackson, after already having played Kudo, gets down Reglets, his only playable bingo, for 76 more points, and a lot is going to hinge on this draw for David if this game isn't going to be a potential blowout here.
All right. Well, he's found much better tiles in the bag. AANNRTY is going to go a lot further than Uwu and some other Drek there, but not going to bingo here is David. So I think cashing in the Y as effectively as possible is what he's trying to do. And Tryna might be the play. TRYNA through the R in Reglets opens up this board nicely. We might see that, or we might see just AY above Reglets for 28. ANNRT would be the leave there, though. That's a bingo or die leave. You think it's bingo or die time for David Brown here, Will?
I mean, certainly at this deficit, bingoing in short order is definitely going to be on his mind. And, unfortunately, he's got a nice play. Oh, I did it again. Let me make sure I'm drawing in the right spot. He's got a nice place for the Y, but he has no way of using one of his two ends productively in that spot. So, yeah, I do feel like he's going to have to get a little bit creative and sacrifice some points in order to maximize his odds of bingoing. And I'm curious which direction he's going to go. He's got a couple options here. Maybe my favorite is just rangy here. The thing I guess I don't like about this is that it cuts right through the heart of all these nice floaters. The thing I do like about it is it leaves ANT, which is very nice and balanced. And maybe if Jackson can't play that far through the R in response, you still have this E to potentially play bingos through afterwards. So maybe that's the best of a very ugly lot. And boy, there we go, Matt. Oh, tangy instead. I think these are very similar plays.
Yeah, just kind of do one or the other. It doesn't really matter, but you have to choose your approach here. The short play holding 5-1 pointers, I don't think was the right option. This is a better idea for David. Don't want to obstruct the floaters, but at least you'll have them on one side or the other in most instances.
Yeah, it makes sense. So back over to Jackson, who is not poised to run away with this yet with all those vowels.
Yeah, not the best draw for him there. He's got to decide which of the threats on the board to address and how to do it. Man, there's a number of fun options here for Jackson. I think if he knows the 6-letter PERDIE, that does some fun stuff and puts a little bit of a word knowledge check on David, as PERDIE is just a 6. It takes no hooks at all. I like that, but Jackson opting for pride here instead pretty quickly. So
Yeah,
no word
just
knowledge check, no trap set for the player from the bottom bracket.
like I apologize for my horrifically drawn Purdy, just trying to show where it would go, and Matt suggesting as a 6-letter, I think an interjection could be really nice to bait an S hook on that, which he could then challenge off. So I appreciate that. That would be a very Jacksonian play. I feel like that's what we thought he was doing against Rafi with Ravings. But I definitely have seen Jackson do that many a time, as I'm sure you have in your commentating experience.
Yeah, he loves to set the trap and try to take advantage. That would have been a cool opportunity to do so, but he's opting for the less volatile route. PRIED is a play that you don't normally make in a vacuum, but Jackson doing exactly what we saw Rafi do last game, making an inference. Tangy after spending some time, I think you're holding 1-pointers. And I think if I open this spot on the left side of Pride, you don't actually hurt me. So Jackson making a little bit of reading, rolling the dice because of the read he's picked up, and he's going to cash in the spot before David's able to.
Yeah, it's nice the way things have worked out here for Jackson. That being said, there will still be openings after almost anything Jackson plays here. So, yes, he is going to play Owie for a nice score, but this is still open. Maybe David can draw something ending in ED right here. Maybe he'll draw something that lets him open this lane. If he does that, I do expect Jackson to make a play in this area that shuts the board down incredibly effectively. What do we think about David's previous play of Van Men, by the way, Matt?
Vanman holding DR. Yeah, we didn't really get to talk about that play, but one of the things Vanman does is close this board, and David is trailing big against someone who controls a board very well. It's a nice play in that it's a great word that sheds a lot of tiles from an unbalanced rack, but it is not a great play to keep this board shaped in a way that helps you catch up in this game. I think he's going to feel the consequences of that one all game. I think Jackson's about to build a great iron wall, and this one's going to be painful to watch.
Yeah, I definitely worry about the future of the board after this play against a player like Jackson. I think I would have preferred a play just as simple as Vend right here. The reason I like that better, you're not doing anywhere near as much to obstruct these lanes the way that you are with Van Men putting the V out in space. Yes, this is here, but it would have been nice to have both options to make it a little tougher for Jackson to shut down. And long term, if you play Vend, this S hook is going to be really, really tough to block productively while also scoring any kind of points that you're happy with if you're Jackson. So, yeah, that being said, Van Man works through the clunky consonant overload that David had on his rack a little bit faster. So, yeah, maybe it works out a little bit better sometimes. But yeah, let's see how the board unfolds. We could be in for a closed board masterclass here.
I say frequently on stream that it's those intermediate plays that differentiate players, and I think this is just a very telling example of why David has been getting better at Scrabble for sure, but still green compared to some of the top experts. I think he's going to learn a thing or two about intermediate plays as he watches his game unfold, but I think this one's going to get painful for him.
Yeah, it's he has to do his best right now to try to take matters into his own hands. I just wonder, a play that jumps out for him. He's got that X. He's going to want to score with it. If he plays something like next right here, I mean, it does create an N and an E out in space, but he's going for Nixt instead, which is a much more active play but I do feel like this also invites potential shutdown plays parallel right here, too. If Jackson were to have any, not sure what he has, if he can get away with it, but maybe just GEY here could be really devastating.
Yeah, these are just so easy for Jackson to smash back. JIG through this I or GEY, just like close the board. Again, this is kind of the consequence of Van man. Like, there's nothing you can do now in this game. David needed to draw a bingo instantly, and because he didn't, there's just no shot for him anymore. We'll point out, chat was screaming about this, and rightly so, that Jackson had a really awesome option knocked out by that play of Gitja,
Oh my
GYTTJA.
God.
That would have been just fantastic. I bet he would have seen it too. But hey, having that blocked, playing Jig for 27, closing the board, building this huge lead, Jackson still has to feel great in this game.
Yeah, I think the play of Jig looks really restrictive. And we should note that it's technically not impossible that David could draw a bingo ending in something like ATE or, something similar right here as a 7. Could he draw something starting with K, U, D, or O going across? Yeah, he could. But those are very, very difficult lanes to hit. They are so reliant on just the right draw, just the right amount of luck. And it is going to be tough for him to find a way to draw one of those. He could really use one of the blanks in a hurry, which would open up some of those possibilities for him. Instead, hasn't drawn a blank, but he has an S-mat. Verls looks sensible to me here.
Yeah, you've just got to put tiles in space here. And the nice thing about this is that Jackson can't play a 4-letter word overlapping this to the left side, score a ton, and close the board. He can't overlap that V at all. So this is going to put Jackson in a tough position. Playing through the V is not something Jackson wants to do, as it opens the top of this board. This puts letters in space. This gets David some lines to try to make something happen. But he's still going to need a lot of luck. He's going to need a blank soon, probably, to mount a comeback here.
Yeah, he's drawing 5 tiles towards it, so very much a possibility for him here, trailing by not quite 100. And Jackson doesn't have an obvious move that is super defensive, but I do feel like Unity is a move that's likely to come down for him here. This would make it impossible to bingo, in response, unless you draw something starting in a vowel. That seems pretty nice. Another option, I guess, would be Truly here, but this invites plays into the Y that could be annoying. Imagine if David responds with a play that actually S hooks through this Y, if he just plays something like that. And now Jackson will have multiple threats to deal with after Truly. That being said, if that is Jackson's play, I think it makes a good deal of sense here just to keep the scoring pressure on. He's probably thinking about Truly and Unity both, Matt. Do you have an instinct between those?
They're both annoying for different reasons. Unity, and there are going to be these marginal lines that sit there all game, both on top and beneath the Y. And once one goes away, the other is still going to sit there in space, but Truly allows those easy plays down to the Y. I like Unity more because the bingos this seeds, A, probably need to start with a vowel, and B, aren't going to score a killer score anyway. This is what I would do if I were Jackson. I like it.
Yeah, me too. I wasn't going to be super hard in favor of it just because, I really respect Jackson's ability to suss out the nuances between moves like that. But my gut was like, yeah, Unity is just a little bit tougher for David to play against. And I do feel like, oh, and look at that, reaping the benefits right away.
I said this was going to be painful. Jackson's about to bring the pain with that draw.
Yeah, and even crazier is that, we're talking about this being kind of a difficult lane to hit unless you can play a bingo starting with a vowel. Well, that is what Jackson will be able to do. You can see Amulets in all likelihood the play he is eyeing in this spot right here. And that is going to be a tough one for David, who, he's had an amazing tournament to this point. I wouldn't really look at any of the moves he's made in this game and say, oh, yeah, he earned this. Like, Jackson is massively outplaying him in this game. From the get-go, he drew terrible tiles, and that's just going to happen sometimes.
Yeah, he's really had no shot in this one. You got to feel for him. Like when you play against someone as good as Jackson Smylie, and you have Uwu Howl and he has Baby Bingos, like you're probably just going to lose. It's going to be one of those. But I mean, hats off to him. 14-6 in this stacked NWL or WoW division is really great. 14-7 after 3 days is a dream come true for him, even though he's getting run over in this one.
Yeah, and that is inevitable. You play enough Scrabble, you're going to get in trouble in some of these games where the tiles don't go your way. But he is going to be fighting on here. He doesn't know that Jackson is sitting on a blank. For all David knows, he can play something good. Maybe he's going to try to play something like Jag right here and try to draw one of those blanks. Instead, he's going to play Gap. Not sure what this accomplishes for him. It does balance his rack a little bit, but it's hard to see. I guess he's really going to be going for a 7-letter bingo here with his A. That's what he's hoping for. But yeah, Jackson might be shifting his idea from amulets to ampules here. I'm not sure. There's a big difference between those.
Not really. Just which floaters do you want to put out in space, LES or ETS? Doesn't really matter. Just kind of do one. I'd be more not looking to use much clock on this turn if I were Jackson, but ampules and amulets are Jackson's two highest scoring bingos. Each of those with YA is 77. I think he'll take one of those, but he wants to make sure there's not a cool overlap that really slams this board shut. I don't see anything that does that though.
Yeah, I think he's made the right choice to go ahead up top with one of his 77 pointers. It is going to be amulets, unless he really shocks us by circling the wrong letter. That every so often does happen, Matt, where it's pretty painful. But you know what? Look at what's happened here. Ampules would have worked out slightly better because David now has a bingo from this E. I feel like this is a classic example of right play, worse outcome for Jackson.
Yeah, it feels like double doubles from the L are probably more likely than double doubles from the E, but hey, Scrabble happens.
And there's the second blank for Jackson.
God.
So very briefly, I thought there for a second that if Jackson draws terribly after that bingo and David draws the second blank, maybe we've got something on our hands here. But it is not to be, as Jackson's drawn very, very well. I'm not 100% sure if he has a bingo right now, but the fact that he has the second blank by definition means David doesn't have it. So he has to be thrilled to see that tile find its way onto his rack.
Yeah, when I see that second blank come and I'm already up about 100 points, I start thinking, okay, I'm gonna win by about 200 or 250, aren't I? This one's gonna spiral because I know in this situation my opponent has to open the board and pray that they get lucky, and I know I'm about to wallop whatever opportunity they open. So this one's gonna get nasty. I think Jackson can score a ton of points on the left side of this board too. He's got the O's he needs to play Coho and OP. That's 31 and holds AI blank. This one's going to get ugly.
And yeah, I was wondering if David would draw something to make it interesting. His tiles are decent, but doesn't seem like he will have a playable word. I'm sure Jackson is never going to open any tiles for him to play through, like an I for Infector or something like that. I'm expecting Jackson to play the pretty standard looking Coho off of the P. That's great. To me, it scores decently well, doesn't open a thing back to David, keeps AI blank. Maybe you draw some consonants to hit this S and put the game away. So makes a lot of sense to me. Not sure if you see anything, Matt, that also appeals.
No, I mean, honestly, like being completely candid in this situation, if I'm Jackson, I'm now looking at the clock and thinking, ooh, I get to be the one to pick the restaurant and make a reservation for dinner tonight. My brain's already on dinner, on who I'm going to take out, how many people I'm going to bring, and where I'm going to go. That's the best part about Scrabble tournaments. Yeah, the game is fun, but the after hours, the food, the company, the games, the drinks, the everything else, that's the real fun that these players are going to go have.
Yeah, these big tournaments really are kind of a, a dual purpose event. Obviously, there is the thrill of top level competition, which we've been bringing you all day, but there is so much more that we really don't show on these streams. It feels much more like a convention. It feels like you're sort of with an extended family for a week. That's how I usually feel. And it's kind of nice too when you have a bad result, you can really lean into the fact of, yeah, well, I might not be doing my best at the tournament this year, but at least I'm getting to see all these people that are very dear to me for a solid week ish. So at least that's what I've told myself more recently as my nationals performances have suffered, as Jackson does play Coho. But is that how you feel about these big events too, Matt?
Yeah, it sucks doing all this commentary off site because I don't get to see everybody. And every time I'm watching in between games, just I see players walking around the playing room and it's like, oh my God, it's that guy. I want to go talk to him. Oh my God, I haven't seen her in forever. And no, I'm sitting at home talking to a camera and getting trolled in comments on a YouTube section. So
Yes. Actually, chat here has been on the whole extremely well behaved. Just want to not to jinx it. I know I shouldn't say anything, but you guys have been great. Really, really grateful for all the viewership that we've had over the last few days. And it's crazy to think we're going to do it all again tomorrow, another 7 days. And then finally, the climactic 3 games at the very end on day 5. There are so many, there's 10 more games of Scrabble to go. I feel a little bit fatigued. I actually feel pretty good considering that I have COVID right now. I feel like Scrabble is sort of keeping me, the fun of going through these games is keeping me afloat. Looks like David seeing Infector would go down in his rack there, but it's just wishful thinking. There's no spot for it. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good, but playing in these events is so much more fatiguing too.
yeah, I mean, after you play 7 games of Scrabble, there are going to be days where only 2 or 3 of them are competitive, and you're like, what am I doing here with my life? But there are going to be other games where 6 or 7 are competitive down to the last turn, and you think very hard. And that is so taxing on your brain. This tournament specifically, the Word Cup, a lot of these players played a bunch of games over the July 4th tournament. I think that was 27 games. And then many of them coming from the SPC in South Bend last week, another 31 games there. Like the fatigue has to be real for anybody who's played in multiple of these major July tournaments.
Yeah, without question. I did that last year. I played every big event there was to do between the SPC and then Westpac immediately after, and Word Cup before that. It was something like 90 games of Scrabble. And I really do feel like stamina played a role for me down the stretch of that final tournament, which is only natural. I'm not about to be that upset with myself for that. But yeah, the best thing you can do as a player is to try to make it so that a normal game of Scrabble isn't that taxing for you, whether that means studying the dictionary so well that the words just pop into your head. You don't have to grind and worry about, is this valid? What am I missing here? If you can get to that point where the words are coming so easily and that your strategic acumen is so honed that you don't have to really burn a ton of brain power on most positions, as we see Jackson dump 2 vowels with ale in the center of the board. Anyway, I feel like that's the only way that you're going to make it through such a marathon month of July.
Being able to be very solid on your baby bingos helps so much. If you're able to look at some of the most common racks you might draw and just say straight away, either there are no bingos, or there is one bingo and it's this, or there are 2 bingos and it's these. That makes a lot of those mid-game turns just so easy for you. You don't have to spend the 2 minutes shuffling and finding the word. That helps you save a lot of the stamina. So that's one place people tend to start if they want to make the games easy. But hey, a lot of people really like that part of the game. And that's something I noticed as I came up the ranks and I studied more racks. So I seldom get the opportunity to just shuffle my letters around and anagram and naturally find words. If that's the part you find fun, maybe never study words in this game, and you can always spend your time anagramming. There are people who don't study at all who make it to 1500, 1600, even 1700 in Scrabble. Just do what brings you joy and come meet some other nerds and hang out with us.
Yeah, it's the best advice I've heard. So many ways to improve at this game. You really don't have to do all of them. You can just pick the ones that make you happy. And you're going to find that improving at Scrabble is so rewarding. It's such a fun journey to go on, self improvement in Scrabble, because it really does feel like no matter what you do to get better, it's going to pay off over the long haul. Maybe not on a game to game basis, the 1 or 2 games after you learn a whole bunch of new words, you might not get to use any of them, but over the long haul, you definitely will. And it feels so good when you can either add some new words to your repertoire or execute a strategic concept that you have really digested in full over a series of games, or you've learned it from another game you've watched, making setups, doing all those sorts of things. It's just a lot of fun. So definitely, that's something I'm very passionate about. Is I don't really make overt calls to do that on my YouTube channel. I feel like I'm trying to show and not tell that this game is just unbelievably complicated and beautiful and fun to play. So hopefully that's rung true for some of you out there.
Yeah, you don't have to be Jackson Smylie or David Brown to play in a tournament. Just show up. Just show up to a club or a tournament with a can-do attitude. The words will come with time. Not all of them, but enough of them. You'll pick up the 2s and 3s after, a few months, a few weeks, depending on how much time you put in. But just show up. Scrabble's accessible to everybody. There are fun decisions you have to make at any level, whether it's finding words or setting yourself up or blocking, anagramming. There's all kinds of puzzles to be solved at all levels of this game. It's super fun.
Jackson with not too complicated of a puzzle here. David, yeah, you see his body language there. He just flips his hand up and says, I had to try. He played Ach on the previous move, realizing that, yeah, I've got 2 of the E's remaining. I think his odds were actually not bad with that setup of being able to capitalize on it himself. But Jackson had the only other unseen E to him. Actually, maybe there were 2 unseen to him at that time. Either way, that's not a lot of E's left. So as far as setups go, I feel like that made some sense. But of course, Jackson pouncing with airbase for 86 to seal this one up.
Yeah, it's one of those where like it's the most rational thing to do from David's perspective, except it's also the least rational thing to do, because what did Jackson just play? Jackson played ALE through an L. He played just an A and an E for an intermediate score.
Yeah.
Jackson is holding an E 100% of the time.
Yeah,
if David identifies that, like, it's not even worth rolling the dice here. You're just asking Jackson to punch you in the face, and you have just been punched in the face. And guess what? The WU from your first rack, they're back punching you in the face too.
Very well said all around. Yeah, just one of those games for David, even with the understanding that after ALE, Jackson's very, very likely to have an E. I don't even quibble that much with David's, trying to get super creative to make a spot that might, give him a chance back into this game. But I agree that maybe there were other ways that were slightly more, calculated aggression as opposed to just throwing caution to the wind. But hey, sometimes there's not a lot you can do one way or another.
Sometimes you just get punched in the face.
Exactly. Yeah, what does he do now? There are 4 tiles in the bag. F, Z, Q. I guess ZQ is more salient, along with 3 I's. So I wonder, is David going to consider holding on to his U just in case he draws that Q? Seems like it'll make things a little bit easier in the end game if he does.
Yeah, you want to hope Jackson has it too. Weirdly, of all the letters that could be in the bag, it is EILR. And because I know that, it's like, well, hang on. Could David put together an absolute miracle here if he sets something up? But I don't think so. Jackson's going to hold on still.
That's hilarious. That is part of Scrabble. You have to play to your outs. So if I'm David here, I would think to myself, I'm down by 160 points here. There's no way I can win this game. But actually, if you somehow can catch Jackson with, QZ on his rack and bingo for 100 points. Now you're actually talking. Yeah, you're right. The score gap is a little bit too much. I don't think there's any way that Jackson isn't winning, even with the absolute worst case scenario. But it is your job as a Scrabble player to play to your outs. You have to figure out, how could I possibly win this game, figure out what that condition is, and go from there.
He gave it his best shot. He tried to open that spot up and roll the dice one last time, but it's been all pain for David on stream. Bad tiles, bad sequences of events. Jackson just ran him over in this one.
So yeah, I'm not sure what he's going to opt to do. He still's got 5 minutes to think about it. I guess I would also, in his shoes, be thinking to myself, well, is there any kind of big spot for the Q or Z lurking on the board that I should really be blocking here? I don't really see a spot like that, Matt. So maybe that's not a relevant concern.
Yeah, I don't see any huge crushing plays like ZOO and TOO is about all I see, and so I'm not really worried about taking away killer plays for Jackson.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is the definition of playing out the string. It's been suggested kind of a cool hook, if David knows it, could be to just play like Rue and re-radiate. That would at least be a little bit stylish. Maybe that's something he'll be considering. Yeah, not sure. It looks like he's getting ready to play Burr here. All right. This is at least a play that scores decently here. There's no S hooks to get pounded on. Seems okay.
Yes, I think just kind of making moves in this situation is reasonable. I'm not going to tell you which one's the best one when you're losing by 160, but scoring some points, turning over some tiles, just give it one more shot. And we'll see. There's some good draws in there for him.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. Jackson playing Zoo with impunity, realizing that there are no A's. This is a completely safe spot. I guess this is also a safe spot too. You can't play down because Burr now blocks off that lower triple. And Jackson has a couple different places he can play his Q, so he doesn't have to worry about that either. Makes sense to me. And now we're into the final end game of our final game of day 3, Matt. This has been a pretty banger day of Scrabble overall.
Yeah, we had 2 just immediate classic games as soon as I sat down, and got to watch Rafi Stern put on a defensive clinic in the third one. This one's been a little lopsided, but hey, we get to use the time to make banter and give our thank yous and shout outs and all that. So you couldn't have scripted it better if you tried.
This actually, even though this game is absolutely been decided for quite a while, this end game is a great puzzle for the audience out there. I really feel like that from David's perspective, what would you do? This is a combination of strategic thinking and board vision for sure here. There's a play that makes this end game really interesting, Matt. Not sure if you've spotted it yet.
I spotted it because I'm quackling, but I unfortunately it's also wrong. David has a standout play that is dope, but it is not mathematically correct. So let's see if chat spots the dope play, but the dope play is not the correct play here because of what Jackson has on his rack.
Yeah, so I think the idea, which has been spotted, is that uplifter is available through these letters. This is amazing, right? L, L, T, E, R, leaving EWE on the rack there. Oh my God, I'm seeing that in the chat, Matt. Nigel Peltier losing by 1 point after that incredible heartbreaker to Laurie Cohen on stream before. God, maybe I'll pause now and get your reaction to that.
I need to open a beer so I can pour it out for him, man. He just lost with a 475 after losing with a 480 something earlier today on stream to Lori. That is just an absolutely heartbreaking day. Of course, Nigel, just an excellent dude, and I'm sure he's going to take it in stride, but pour one out for Nigel. That sucks.
It does suck. Earlier in the tournament, I believe there was news that SPC Collins Division finalist Wasim Khatri lost a game with a 551, which is another absolute just brutal. That's just insane to think about that happening. So yeah, in any case, the best place that Jackson can play his cue is right there. Okay, so right idea by David there. Block cheese and force Jackson to play his cue somewhere else if he wants to play it. Seems very reasonable. Best way to do that though was to play EEW, saving LTER as a follow-up move. And if Jackson wants to block that, he can't really play his cue as well. He could play something like if to block it, but then David will just go out and collect extra points from the cue. So very, very instructive endgame. Certainly a shame that it did not matter one bit to the outcome here.
Yeah, no, that is still a wonderful in-game puzzle, and this is a trick. I'm going to shout out Noah Walton in the chat, but Noah taught me this one. You can practice an in-game in any game. Just pretend like the score is close, and then figure out what deficit, what lead is safe. How can I maximize this? You could have done it here. That's a great puzzle. Let's cut to Mike and see if we hear from them. I don't think there's much to say, though.
Oh no, 38.
Did you sell at 280?
I had me at 282.
113?
No, I had 150.
Okay, so 20, 37, 67.
Oh, that's where it was. 39%. 6 would be 190. 238, 256, 280. Yeah, 336.
And 462?
Yeah.
Your game.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, it was kind of rough.
Yeah. This game, I'm pretty sure I found my best end game.
Yeah, that was good. I was looking at Ever, so
Yeah.
Welt, but then it's good to block QIS.
Yeah. I just saw QIS, so I didn't even consider playing that.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
good.
Maybe that would have been. I'd have to do the math to see which is better. But
No, I assume it's best. Yeah, not much to say.
yeah. Just try to give myself a chance.
Yeah.
Just have what you need. Yep.
All right, well, maybe Jackson's saying it best there. Not much to say about this one. Seems like the players are likely to just submit their scores, so maybe we can kick it back to the two of us and we can say our final thoughts about today's games. But yeah, Matt, you said 2 instant classics to start the afternoon. Had some great games this morning. And we get to do it all again tomorrow for day 4. As the numbers get higher of what day it is, the games get more tense, more on the line. $10,000 at stake for the winner in both the WoW and Collins divisions. That's a lot of money to win playing Scrabble.
Yeah, wow. Tomorrow is going to be such a spicy day. I'm looking forward to it. We've got Nigeria still dominating the Collins division. Wellington at 14-7 and Etakaro 14-6 pending a result. That one's going to be very spicy tomorrow as Canadian Josh Sokol and Jeff Teveno, someone I go way back with, are right behind. That there are just so many good players, and that one is so tight. This NWL field with Rafi losing some games today is also going to be very tight. Tomorrow is going to be a pressure cooker of a day.
Yeah, a couple more results to get in there, but I think rather than wait for every last result to come in, we're just going to give you guys a little bit of a recap tomorrow morning once we get going. Same time, same place. But yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much to everybody watching. Very quick plugs while we're at it. This event is made possible by collaboration between Word Game Players Organization, WGPO, and Collins Coalition, the COCO. Thank you so much to everybody behind the scenes who is a part of either of those two organizations, for making all of this possible. Definitely having a lot of FOMO on my part to not be there. But as Matt and I were saying, this is the next best thing. So with that, we're going to sign off from day 3. Like I said, back same time, same place here tomorrow for day 4 from the 2024 World Cup.